Folks, you're very welcome along this Monday evening to the weekly show. And delighted, of course, to have Damien and Kevin here with us, myself as normal. And our special guest this evening is well-known inter-county referee Sean Hurson. Sean, delighted to have you with us. We'll chat to you in a wee second. Before we do, a couple of wee things I want to mention. First of all the carers out there who are doing a remarkable job during difficult times. Our thoughts are very much with you, and our thoughts also very much with Shawnee Maynard today, who ran a marathon just under 4 hours for the Southwestern Acute Hospital in Enniskillen. And I know Connor was going to say a amount of publicity on it this afternoon, but well done to all the miners and all those involved. That was a brilliant, brilliant achievement, and congratulations, Johnny. He ran it in under 4 hours. Some going, I would say, there are days I couldn't drive a marathon in under 4 hours. But anyway, a man who has managed a marathon across football pitches and up and down the country is our special guest tonight. Sean Hurson, you're very, very welcome to the TTM show on a Monday night.
Thank you, Noel. Thank you. We'll see how this goes.
This is a bit...
Give me charge, Sean. Give me charge.
Fortunately, Sean, no cards tonight at all. This is a very relaxed sort of a session, and the two guys in the corner might chip in with the other difficult question, but by and large, as I told you, it'll be very, very straightforward. So, first one, obviously, Sean, what was it that first attracted you to refereeing?
I suppose I had most of my football career all through youth. It was a case playing youth football and then an average reserve footballer. And I got married in 2007 and I moved down to Arbo, and I still wanted to be involved in the club. I was involved in management along with Paddy Talley in 2015, and moving away from Galbally area, still wanting to be involved in the Galbally club, I said I would take a go at the refereeing. I'd done in-house games prior to that, and it was all right, it was grand. So in 2018, I went and done the refereeing course up in Kelly's Inn at the time, along with Mickey Hughes and Johnny Dooher. And I suppose I was young enough at that stage, coming into refereeing. There wasn't a lot of people doing refereeing at my age, and I enjoyed it, and I just took it from there. And 2008 started my more adult games in 2009, and then carried on from there, really. So, but very much under the Galbally club from all days, you know.
Well, the funny thing is that I remember back after I quit football and probably had been away from it for a number of years, there was always a talk that if you didn't produce a referee, then the team didn't get necessarily reserve football. So was there any pressure that came on, or was it something you just felt I can make a contribution here?
To be honest, I thought I was going to try it. Niall Corrigan was refereeing for the club at the time, so we weren't stranded with no referee. But Galbally always would have had referees. You know, I think Mickey McCahey, God rest him, and Pluggan McCrory always served the club as referees, and they were always involved in committees as well. So it was something that you were giving something to the association and representing your club, which was something that I liked it on, you know.
But when you started first, you know, I suppose I'm thinking back when I first started to play football, what I wanted to do, what my ambitions were. Did you have ambitions saying, here, listen, I can go right to the top of this if I look at myself and do this properly?
No, I didn't really, to be honest. It was a case of just wanting to still be involved at that stage. Like my first game was a reserve game at Derry Thresk, and I tell you, it was testing to say the least. And I went to do my first senior game was in Clare. It was Clare, Drumragh, and Clare was playing in my first senior game, and I just enjoyed getting on with a lot of the players. I knew a lot of the players' age profile I was sort of similar age to some of the players, and that got on. Seemed to get on pretty well with the players. Tyrone seemed to be nobody at an age group from mine that was refereeing currently at the time. And as I say, Eamon McHugh and Cathal O'Hagan was refereeing. They were maybe a year or two older than myself, and they were making strides at Ulster level, but there was never an opportunity. It seemed to be nearly like a closed shop to progress in Ulster and even into national from early days. So that wasn't really a thought until I suppose they took in the new age of 50, and probably 2012, 2013, I got my opportunity because that rule that came in were refereeing. And anybody that was over 50 was deemed to be surplus to requirements at national level.
When you mentioned your first senior game was Clogher and Drumragh, Kevin, great two great clubs. I mean, two outstanding referees, Eugene McConnell, Fabian McGlone. You know, what more could John ask for in terms of?
You should throw me under the bus there, Noel.
Joking aside, Sean, I mean, you mentioned there about the national and the provincial and all the rest. At what stage did somebody say to you, here, Sean, you're doing a good job here. We think you can go even further. Would you be interested in, and maybe there was an academy at that stage, I don't know if there was. But
to be honest, there was an academy, and I think it was in 2010, and Lily May, our eldest, was just born, and I got a phone call from a man that just passed away, and that's Sean Ruddy. He was involved with the Tyrone referees. I think he was chairperson at the time, and I suppose Sean was very heavily involved in the referees at that time. And Sean rang me and said, you know, we have an Ulster Academy coming up. Would you be interested in going down to Armagh some Saturday morning? And to be honest, I thought, what is it? I didn't really know anything about it at all. And I just took a run down, and there was, I think, 15 of us at that time that was young. Regardless, I'm not saying it was all about ability at that stage. Because of the age group, it was you had to be under 30. And I hadn't even refereed a senior Division 1 game in Tyrone at that stage. So it was a process, is what they call a pathway. And, you know, I mentioned Sean Ruddy there, and it was sad, like, you know, just in the current times that there was no wake. But, you know, I think I have to pay my respects to Barry and his family, because to be fair to Sean, he done a lot for refereeing, not only in Tyrone, but he was on that Ulster setup as well, and soldiered along with Michael Hughes as umpire as well, you know. So a lot of people don't realise that we're involved in refereeing have been, you know. And I say, Sean Ruddy, I suppose I'm just thought I'd mention it anyway, is there, but just before the whole COVID kicked in, I had been asked to go around a couple of clubs just to discuss the new rules, and the last club that I went to was the Rock, and it was all their seniors and reserves and their youth coaches was in the Rock one evening, and I just went through a presentation about these new rules, and Sean Ruddy happened to be there. And after the presentation, Sean come up to me, and Barry was there, and Martin Hackett, and Sean was saying that, you know, I think he said it was 9 or 10 years since he was involved with the rules, and what has changed in that period, he couldn't believe it. You know, it was really, you know, black cards have came in and different rules, and he said the whole thing has changed differently. You know, it was just, that was only what, about 4 weeks ago, you know. So, and unfortunately for Sean and his family, he's since passed, you know. So
somebody's with Sean,
yes.
Of course Frank Quinn too. Damien and I were talking about this earlier. Somebody's very much with the Quinn family as well. Sad times for the whole country, but certainly for the GAA community. When you lose people of that calibre, a big loss to the community. No question about that.
I think as well as that, when times like that, you know, when death, you know, I know from myself and refereeing, and Galbally is an area for going to wakes and funerals and so forth. But like, if you look at John Joe Quinn there, a founding member of Kildress, just recently passed with just his family. You talked with Frank Quinn. You had Frankie Corey's mother, who was buried this morning over in Kildress, and you know, Frankie's a big supporter of Team Talk as well, and was texting me the other night as well, just to give me a bit of stick about coming on, you know. So it's sad times, and hopefully then people will all be remembered, you know.
But the wonderful thing about it, sad times as it is, the thing that links us all is the GAA, and the thing that will bring us through us all is the GAA, and what the GAA means to and does for communities. And as you say, normally wakes and things, we go to wakes there either individually or collectively, and the perception and the organisation that you see in communities,
right.
what they do. Well, come here, tell me this. Listen, you mentioned earlier about your footballing career, shall we say. Describe it in as briefly, as positively as you can, Sean.
That's positively. I like that. Kevin Kelly close. But listen, all through the youth football, I would have done goals, and we had a very good minor team.
Another goal.
There you are. Outnumbered again. I say school teachers are goalkeepers.
Thank God to see another one.
Go on, Sean. Sorry.
I had a very good minor team. 96, 97. English and Ireland and Galbally would have been the three top teams at that stage. Unfortunately, we beat English. We're the only team to beat English that year. Cormac and Donald McGann were both playing, and we had Kieran McGeary, God rest him, was our full back, and I was the goalkeeper. And Cull Island, I think they went on to win the championship at that stage. But
Richard Thornton was playing for that Cull Island team, Sean.
That's right, yeah. Shea O'Neill, I think, was full forward. There was different lads, you know, they were all very good footballers. And we soldiered well. Galway, we didn't win anything at youth level, but I think from under 14 right through the minors, we had Brian Kelly and Charlie Donnelly were our managers. And, you know, when you look at football now, it's completely different. Like, we were all going on bikes to training, or we're walking to training, it was one training session and maybe a match the following week. It's different times, you know. But I would have done goals, and then I went into the reserves, and I done goals in the reserves, and I played out the middle of the field as well with the reserves. But an average reserve player, Noel, to be honest. I don't put any shame in that, but I've done my best for the club.
Well, come here. Once the career, or you decided the career was over, was it that you decided, right, that's it, no more football, it's going to be refereeing, or did you still play the odd game?
No, after I moved down to Arboe, there was no more football. I had been involved with management prior to that, so I had a few years prior to picking up the referee, and I'd actually stopped playing, you know. So I used to go into the change rooms, and Jerry Gillespie, God rest him, and now a local character, he would have been counting all the different players in the change rooms, and as soon as there was 15 or 16, he was out through the door. So maybe I could have been out after.
A lot of clubs like that, you know.
Jerry, I have to come in here. Jerry Gillespie was a legend there, I have to say, a real good character around the club, and sorely missed. It's hard to believe it's 15 years from he died. He was buried the week before Tyrone beat Armagh in the All-Ireland semi-final in 2005. So, but he was a real good character, and just lived and breathed football, didn't he, Sean?
Yeah, very much so. Very much so. I'll tell the story about Jerry. He went on to represent Tyrone at under 40s, or for the over 40s, and he was telling me about he was going to play Dublin, and Tyrone under 21s, I think, was playing. I think it was in Longford, and we had went down. We were going to the match, and he says to me, "Make sure and come down to the game." And lo and behold, I was driving down to try and catch some of the match. And as I was coming to one of the roundabouts, just coming into Longford, here didn't I meet Jerry Gillespie's car coming down our road. There was a whole pen of new men come up for the over 40s at that time. Jerry Gillespie didn't like it, so he just left. You know, so. But.
That story, I think, would be relevant to an awful lot of clubs and an awful lot of age groups, senior football and all, and it's just not over 40s. Sean, listen, early influences in terms of refereeing, guys that you would have sort of looked at as role models, people that you would have maybe relied on for advice, for guidance, for whatever.
In Tyrone at that stage, you know, when I was just starting out, you had Stephen McNamee, you had Mickey Hughes, Martin Sludden, Eamon McHugh and Cathal O'Hagan were breaking into the thing, and that was where you wanted to try and be at, to be honest. They were refereeing the big games, and even before that, you know, if you look at even Barney Taggart seemed to be there for a long time refereeing Henry McNally, you know, and they were referees. But Bert was always a great man to have on your side for a bit of advice or whatever. But I think a character in Tyrone's refereeing circles, and anybody who would know it, would be Donald O'Neill. You know, just the way that he approached players on the field, his field management, and everybody enjoyed. It wasn't about Donald, it was just getting the game done, and everybody knew where they stood with him, and it was, you know, someone to be admired.
Kevin, Donald's a man we often talk about and refer to, and he refereed you once or twice, wasn't he?
Oh, no doubt. I remember when Benny Hockey was over us, and him and Donald would have been good pals. Might have been the Masters squad together, whatever. But the way Benny described it. He says, don't referee it the way he played it. And that was, back then there was no such thing as charge, and it was maybe just as well. But I remember one day, I can't remember who we were actually playing, but I remember one day we were playing a league game, and he was getting a lot of grief from the stand. I don't know why it was home support or visiting support, but that's wrong again, Donald, that's wrong again. And he just he actually went over. He actually stopped the match, Noel, and he went over and he looked into the stand. And I never seen a stand go as quiet in all my life. And he just said, he says, if whoever has the problem with me refereeing, I'll talk to you after the game. And that was it. He started the match again, and there was no more shouting at him. But a great character. Look, Sean, see some of the names Sean mentioned there, like Henry McNally was another really somebody that, Barney Taggart. Barney was a good referee, but if you question Barney, that was it. You were in the hating to nothing. Like Barney never. But another man there too, and like we had still get him there to do challenge games as Bert. I have to say that, I think the way Sean mentioned there has been one. I think Sean has took a leaf from the way Bert refereed, and that he's very good with players, very good at talking to players. And when referees are out on the field and they're talking to players just as if they're, that respect for them. I think that comes across very well. And as I say, that always stuck with me. That's the way Bert refereed, and I think Sean's like that too.
How important, Sean, is that Kevin mentioned respect, but it's something that I'm not saying.
No, look.
I don't know who that.
Brandon Duff. Brandon Duff.
Yeah,
2 meters.
But Kevin mentioned the respect, Sean, but it's something that people say you have to earn, but is it the thing that you have to earn, or should referees expect that they'll be treated with respect when they go out?
No, I think you have to earn your respect, but I know the logo, people go on, give respect, get respect, but it does have to start, from a referee's point of view. And, just the basic things. I have a very strong umpiring team, and as I say, Martin Coney, Mel Taggart, Cathal Forbes, and Rob Conway, and then other men that can come in, whether it be Shane Doherty, Martin McGuigan, or even Mickey McCann and that, and if you look at the way we approach a match, it's all about preparation. And from an inter-county level, you might be going to players that you maybe do not know, but we'd always get the team sheets prior to that, and every one of the umpires would have their first names before that game on a week yard. And gone are the days where you can turn around and say number 4, even at a club championship in Tyrone, I would be doing this. Number 4, number 7, you got to use their first name. And like, if you're going to a team and you're asking somebody, what do you call such and such, get their first name. And if you have their first name, that actually is given the respect of the player. They all know who you are. They'll all speak to you by your first name. So it's only but right that referees should be trying to earn that respect by trying to get their first name. There's programs, even if you want to go and turn around and say to their full back and say, what do you call number 2? And he says, that's Paddy. And the next time you can pass, hey, Paddy. And the next thing, he knows my name. Or an umpire, if there's someone happening off the ball, an umpire calls him by his first name. We find as a team that actually nips it very early. It works.
Interestingly, that Sean mentioned the number 2 and the number 4. Always the 2 cornerbacks to the guys who probably deserve most attention. Would that be fair?
Is that me, Noel?
Yes, Kev.
Well, I don't know if that's always the case. I don't think you ever wore number 2 and number 4. I don't think you ever wore number 2 or number 4, but I'd say everybody knew your name. But I think that epitomizes there what Sean's saying there, and like all them lads he's mentioned there, and have to mention Alman there, Sean too, is departed a great. He's the same age as me, and a great umpire for you too was Dermot McCaffrey, and they're all them lads you mentioned, Rob and Martin Coney. Like what can you say about Martin Coney? He's just he's just a legend. He's just a legend. Like I first encountered Martin when we were maybe having under 14 teams, and I just love the way Martin refereed. Like he just let the game flow. But again, like, you know, them boys and Cahill Forbes and lads like that there, like they're all, and Mel Tigers, a big thing for them too. Yeah, when Alexis Sean's getting big games, not only in Croke Park but further anywhere else, and it's a big thing, big deal for them too, to be standing at a post, and maybe the Kerrys and the Dublins and the Mayos of this world are playing. And again, as Sean says there, you know, it is a thing where not only a respect thing, but you know, there is a bit of off the ball stuff going. The fact that, you know, maybe Sean could correct me with this, but I think it's probably true too. You probably do the same thing, Sean, as Division 2, Division 3, and it means that maybe the so-called players, that inter-county players that aren't as well known, the fact that the umpires are calling them by their name, sort of, hey, what's going on here? These boys have done a bit of homework.
Well, to be honest, Kevin, just you're talking about Division 2. We'll do that in Ulster Club. We'll do that in Tyrone Championship. At all levels, nearly, we're doing that because, like, they all need the same respect, to be fair. And if you look at the way that the footballers, we talk about umpires there, like, we're maybe away from some of them games down the country. We could be away from maybe 7:30 in the morning, and that could be running right through, mightn't even get home to 11:30, 12 o'clock at night. And the umpires especially, like, the time that they give, you know, and I appreciate that the perception out there is all of their buddies or their mates or whatever. But in my case, it's not, you know, we formed a team of people that were interested and wanted to do it. And I've been very fortunate that them men have all stuck with me, you know, and there's been some hairy days and it has been difficult decisions, and we all work as a team, you know, and umpires, you know, like you talk about umpires going away, we might get a bite to eat, we might get stopped for a sandwich, and we get our dinner. That's it. There's no privileges for anybody when they go down the country, you know, but they're GA people.
Sean, I was just wondering, you know, how big a transition is it then from when you're refereeing an inter-county game to coming to, you know, to heading into refereeing a minor championship game in Tyrone? The fact you know, you're not wired up, you don't have the same sort of communication with those around you. Does it feel like a massive step down whenever you're taking on a game like that and you're fully in control of it on your own?
Believe it or not, there's more pressure sometimes when you're on your own, because as inter-county referees, we get a lot of help from the line. But as well as that, even a simple thing like score. While I take the score in inter-county games, an umpire at either end will take the score as well. And when you're in a club game, you know, sometimes you would actually, there's different things you have to do. In inter-county level, we don't signal for points. We don't signal for wides as a referee. That's all done by the umpires. And a simple flagging. So you'd find myself not even putting the hand up for a score in club games. You know, so sometimes that can be difficult. But no, I would have to say that, you know, hand on heart, that I would go out and I'd respect all games that I do. Well, that be an under 14 game or a senior game, and I could be stood to correct it. But, you know, I'm a big believer that if you're refereeing in Tyrone, you wear the Tyrone gear. If you're refereeing in Ulster, you wear the Ulster gear. And if you're refereeing at National, you wear the National gear. You know, and that's a simple statement that you're refereeing for where you are and where you're from. And, you know, you tug out the exact same way. You know, your socks is up to your knees, you know, the togs and the appropriate jerseys on. And I think that gives the respect. You don't come half tugged out just because it's a club game. You know, and I think that's the way I approach it anyway. And
yeah,
I think
I'm just wondering, is a transition, a massive transition across, and is there an argument to keep the elite referees refereeing the elite games?
I don't believe so, because sometimes, that, as I said, you're actually protected at inter-county level, but you have to make the big decisions on your own at club level. You don't have the support. So, you know, if you're not making the decisions at club level correctly, you're not going to do it at inter-county level. So a hard tussle in Division 1 football in Tyrone, you know, and people will always say this about their own county, but Tyrone Championship and Ulster Club Championship is the most difficult championships to referee above all games, even inter-county level.
You haven't been at a Galbally under 10 tournament, Sean, recently. We saw Kevin Kelly attempting to referee at a Blitz last year, which is always an interesting site.
That must be a few years ago.
The underage tournaments in Galbally are very hard to referee, I'll assure you. Because, as what somebody would say, I'm not looking at you, Kevin, or anything, you wouldn't get that anywhere else, isn't that right?
Well, here, tell me this.
That's right.
I was talking to wee Barry McAduff earlier there, and Barry was saying about some of the phrases that he hears at football. We're going to have him on some night too, but he's a big admirer of yours, Sean, I have to say. But he did say he wanted just to, maybe if you could explain this. First of all, what does the phrase "catch yourself on" ref mean, and how do you do that? Right? How do you manage to catch yourself on? And the second one is when some guy shouts to you, hit it yourself, are you never tempted to actually hit it yourself?
Hit it yourself. I'll tell you one just of it. Sean Quigley, I was refereeing down in Fermanagh one time, and Sean Quigley was a character referee or on the pitch with Fermanagh. And, you know, I give him the free, and he turned around and he says to me one day, he says, well, hit it my right or my left. You know, and that's just, you know, and listen, supporters are going to shout this. The new thing this last couple of years was black card, and I'm expecting the sin bin to come in this year. But the perception on rules is very limited from players, managers, and supporters. And probably, you know, we're all guilty of maybe not marketing it correctly for everybody to learn, to know the actual rules. You know, every decision this last time, that's a black card. Why was that not a black card? So proper education maybe needs to come out there for all our supporters. Now, sometimes the supporter is only looking one way, and from a referee's point of view, if you can please 20% of the supporters at a game, you're doing well. Because 50% of the team that lost, you've lost them altogether. And the team that won, at least, you know, half of them are not happy anyway at some decisions. So, you know, it's just everybody's going to have an opinion. And I think when you pull up to a ground as a referee, there's certain people in that club, whatever club it is or whatever county, has their mind made up before the game even starts of the referee.
See you coming through the gate.
As soon as they see you coming through the gate, you know. So, but from referees, you know, and it might be a cliche, but we are trying to do our best. We're trying to get the calls right. With them split seconds to make them, and it's a case of just trying to be fair all the time.
Just on that now, and I think this is something in fairness to referees, is that particularly at the big matches there where pundits have the advantage of slow motion action replay from various angles. When you're trying to make the call, Sean, you know, from the angle that you're at, possibly behind the play, possibly when the play is moved away from you, you know, you've got that, as you say, that split second to make that call, and you may get it wrong. It may be a huge incident in the game, but you made it with the best of intentions. But these guys, with the advantage of slow motion action replays, blah blah blah, can hang out.
Very much so, and as I say, we have that millisecond, and there's different incidents, and there's nobody will be a bigger critic of my performance than myself. You know, we always at inter-county level where we have the games recorded backless. In Croke Park now, they have actually a referee camera that somebody's in the Hogan stand and they're following the referee. So when things are reviewed and they'll ask you why that decision was made, they're not interested in RTE or Sky's coverage. They're watching the ref cam as if to say they followed the referee, the positioning. And a lot of decisions that you make them in that split second, but you have to deal with it, and it's over. You can't do nothing about it. And sometimes the players will, oh, you should have given this or you should have given that. And you have to be honest, say, listen, I didn't see it, or from my angle, that's the way I seen it. But you have to be able to communicate that back to the players. Now, it could be a big decision in the first minute of the game, and that you have to park that so that the next decision in 3 minutes' time has to be the right one.
Tell me, that's just which is hardest to referee, the first 10 minutes of a major championship game or the last 10 minutes of a major championship game?
From a refereeing point of view, and I think anybody will say this, especially in championship football, do you see for the first 11 minutes, you can't get your breath because it's all go, go, go. You're more settled into the game. And if your fitness is up to the level, the last 10 minutes can be vitally important, but that's when the big decisions have to be made. The first 10 minutes is getting used to the pace of the game. and this cross, the turnovers and teams settling, but you're always gasping for that second breath after about 7, 8, 9 minutes. No matter what your fitness is like, you know, I would find that the most difficult, to get you settled into the game.
And so many of those big games are so close, and they're right down to the wire, right down to the end. I mean, there's a school of thought that says, and in those games, the referee decides who wins or loses.
I will, you know, people's going to have that perception. And there is, you know, it's like a lot of decisions is always coming down to the latter stages. But, you know, over the course of the game, I think that most refereeing decisions are consistent. And we would do a lot of work on going back over games and trying to see where decisions was made or where it could have been avoided. But I think over this last number of years, the decisions have been mostly correct, to be fair. You know, people may not like them, but a lot of the decisions, you know, they're justified, you know, and you may disagree at times, you know, and that's fine, you know, but you have that split second to make the call. But I have been involved in a number of close games at high level as well, and maybe time has come into the issue, but we've just so much to deal with at different aspects, and you have to just try and be fair to the players, whether that be wasting time at one end or the other, and give the opportunities there that's required.
Just on that, then you mentioned earlier, you talking, you pay tribute to Sean earlier there, that the pressures and the changes that are coming in aren't making the referee's job any easier, are they?
No, they're not. Listen, black card, the introduction of the black card, I actually think referees are coping with the black card very well, and have been over the last number of years. If you look at, you know, the deliberate pull down, if anybody sees a pull down, it's blatant. What the black card has done is taken the third man to take the man out of it after he plays the ball, the body check. That's gone virtually out of the game. We have the deliberate trip, you know, and remonstrate. We have someone in our toolbox for that, you know. So I think the black card has worked. Punishment for the black card, obviously, the membership of the GAA have decided that the punishment was maybe too harsh to send a man off for the full game, and that's where the sin bin has come in. And we'll be very interested to see at club football how the actual sin bin really works this year. But you know, 10 minutes, as referees, we will be able to cope with that timing of the 10 minutes for the sin bin. And I would see that there will be probably more black card offences from a referee now that the punishment isn't as severe as it was last year.
Just on that, again, another thing that comes up, and I think Kevin and Damien, we would probably discuss it at different times too. Time, the actual time. I mean, I was just watching the other day the minor All-Ireland final of 2010. The referee, Tyrone Cork, and the referee came up with 2 minutes of additional time. And I just could, if I was a Cork man, I'd have been absolutely livid to think, where did the 2 minutes come from? There's so much more time, and they had momentum and everything else. They ended up losing the match by a point. But it was a strange one, and it rears its head all the time. Why can they not do what the ladies are doing?
Well, possibly 2010, if you can imagine, in 2015, probably I would say time come into play a lot. And that's where you did see the 5-6 minutes additional time. 2 was probably common back then. 2 additional minutes, 1 additional minute at the end of the first half, 2 additional at the end of the second half, at least. But now games is all coming into 6-7 additional minutes, and they are justified. But the problem is at 68 minutes in an inter-county game, or 69 minutes, that's when the additional time is called for. But what you're finding, if you have in the 69th minute, you have called 5 additional minutes. So you have another 6 minutes at that stage to play. And during that 6 minutes, there's a number of stoppages. And we would have to actually stop or watch for substitutions, stop for deliberate delays. And that's where, after the 75th minute, where we called originally 5 minutes, that's where we add this time on. And that's where the perception is that we are probably getting into trouble, because we're adding that time. And where did you get this time? So, yes, there's talk of a stop clock and all the rest. Again, we have to deal with what's out there at the minute. And we're trying to implement it and add the additional time on after the additional time.
Sean, I'm just picking up that point, Sean. I deliberately timed the last 15 minutes of this year's All-Ireland final, the football final. So that was between minute 55 and minute 70. And I timed it at 4 minutes 50 seconds with the ball in play in the last 15 minutes. How do you legislate for that as a referee? And even from a timing perspective, I think the additional minutes was something like, it might have been 7 or 8 minutes at the end of it, but the ball was in play for, just under 5 minutes of the last 15.
Yeah, well, I think from a referee's point of view, it has to be deliberate delays. Now, there is a number of stoppages. So if the ball goes out of play, that's not a deliberate stoppage. It has to be really for, what could we say? Booking a player is not a stoppage. Substitution is a stoppage. But when a referee has to consult with another match official, that could be deemed as a stoppage, which is added on. So substitutions are the biggest one, and injuries. So that's where we have to go on.
What would you say? We're losing more and more time in the last 15 minutes of a game, down to maybe a bit of just cuteness in some teams, just trying to see the clock out?
Oh, very much so. Very much so. And they're all at it. All teams is at trying to buy the clock down, but there's also teams that'll play it as well, and they'll go down, maybe a seaman to somebody that is injured that are not. And as referees, well, we could turn around and say to the physio, deal with that player, but I'm playing on. And then, you're not looking after the player, so there's a sticky wicket nearly, no matter what we do.
The big problem too is, I think in them high-profile games, I can't remember which one it was, but it had been last year, the year before, there was a player actually took 45 seconds to come off the field. And, I know referees are instructed to put on whatever length of time it is. Every sub varies. I'm of the opinion that should be that player. There should be the thing should be stopped until that player actually comes off with the fourth official, or there should be an area in the field where the player has to come off, because I've seen it in high-profile games where players, and they're more or less through me, and they're dandling about, and them high-pro. Sometimes it's nearly getting like the Premiership, and I hate to say that. Like it's they're waiting for a round of applause coming off, and they know exactly what they're doing, and before you know it, there might be 3 minutes of added time indicated, or at least 3 minutes, and some players taking maybe a minute of that to get off the field for a substitute, and it's very hard to manage that.
Yeah, it is very, very difficult. Just on that, Sean, I'm just thinking when Kevin talks about that and covering the field and all the rest, will you find now in the modern game that you're covering far more ground now than you would have when you first started refereeing?
Oh, there's no doubt on it. We're fortunate enough again in Croke Park that there is a bit of science and all the rest. So Aidan Brady out of DCU would support us. So we're all on GPSs. And, at club level, everybody's now on smartwatches, and they could nearly tell you when they go for a run what their pace was and all the rest. A referee, on average, in a club game, 60-minute club game, will run 5 miles in a game. We'll do 2.5 miles in the first half and 2.5 in the second half, give or take. Yeah. In an inter-county game, he'll run 6.5 miles. So saying 6 to 6.5 miles. And in the All-Ireland programme this year, there was a breakdown of all the high-intensity running, low-intensity running. And yes, it is gone are the days where you can referee between the 245s. Somebody just needs to tell Martin Coney that. But gone are the days.
Oh, you just lost an umpire.
I don't necessarily agree with that, but I can see the point you're making. But it is amazing.
Martin Coney's great eyesight, great eyesight.
But fitness level, Sean. Obviously, at the present with the lockdown and everything else, teams are obviously aren't training together, players aren't training together. But from your point of view as a referee, you obviously are able to continue with your training. And Kevin was saying to me earlier, he says, this is interesting. He says, we're looking forward to seeing this when the new season starts, because the referees have been training away on their own, so they should hit the ground running and should be so much fitter than the players when the new season starts.
That's right. That's me and Kevin Kelly's going for runs up the Galbally Road, so you can imagine the sort of training we're going. Listen, we are on training plans. Referees at national level, at Tyrone level, we actually had our fitness test at the beginning of March, just before the COVID lockdown come about. So referees in Tyrone were all training to get a fitness test for the league. At inter-county level, we have a fitness test pre-championship in May usually, and at the beginning of the year. So it's really the first week of January. But games do take you on in fitness, but you still have to do your running, you still have to do your strength and conditioning. We're not part of a group session very often, only maybe about 4 or 5 times a year, but we have programs and we need to be training 2 to 3 times a week, you know, and it's hard on your own, but we have to be disciplined, you know. And from our point of view as referees, if we're not up to the pace of the game, there's only one loser, and that's ourselves. So we have to be ready for it, you know. And I have to work very hard at fitness, always did, but I have it to do. And if you're not, like, players train hard, and you know, if they're training, as referees, we need to be up with play to try and get the decisions right. And if you're up with play, even if you make a bad decision, you might have seen something closer if you're beside it. But if you're doing it 30 yards away, you know, you're going to be hung out to dry, like, you know.
Yeah, we often say in commentary, you know, that we would maybe not see what you see, but we would often say maybe that wasn't a foul, but the referee's much closer to the action than we are. So it's one of those things that you have to take cognizance of. Sean, I'm conscious very much of just before we proceed any further. Come here, listen, GAA obviously hugely important communities, and no more so than the community of Galbally. And at the moment, there's a serious amount of work and goodwill and I say charitable spirit that has gone on, and you're obviously very, very aware of the work that has been done and are heavily involved in it too.
Listen, we have a great community in Galbally, you know, and I mean, we're at the forefront of the community, you know, the football club, because at the end of the day, we would count ourselves as a community organisation. You know, back in 2015, we organised a cycle, and what we did back then was we took a lot of people, and especially ladies involved in the club, that were not involved, would not even come into the club, you know, and a cycle, something different outside the game. But the club organised a cycle. We got so many more people involved in the club. We done our draw. There was only 13 in the committee at that time, and we raised a colossal amount of money. I know Kevin was involved in it at that time and cleared our debt. And, you know, it pulls our whole community together. And then when we have an incident like COVID-19 knocking on our doors now, you know, Noel, our chairman, and Pauline are probably leading that COVID group in Galbally. And, you know, Kevin McVeigh is a great man in the club for getting grants and so forth. And we're probably one of the very first clubs out there that actually availed of a grant. I think he got it maybe on the Friday, got the word on the Friday, and we had 5.5 ton of coal from LCC on the Saturday at the club. And, you know, we left it, that was delivered to the vulnerable people. It was before the lockdown. And, you know, 5.5 ton of coal, like there was 250 bags of coal, and that went round the whole of Galway, and everybody availed of it, you know, that it was necessary for what we felt was something good to the community. And from that, the COVID group was set up, and there's people sewing, there's people making masks, they're making bedclothes for different people in the hospital. And we have our nurse, Joanne Kelly, involved as well, and taking stuff down to Craigavon Area Hospital. With the local carers, you know, Jeremy McVeigh and Pauline, or Tish Gervin, and different ones in the area that are probably not getting the PPE as required. And the club as well has just come in behind them. And there's more to come because, as I say, we've been fortunate, we've been successful in another couple of grant applications there. And this week we'll have something else coming out, you know, for the most vulnerable in our community. And
brilliant to see.
Great,
It simplifies, but it all requires leadership, it all requires organisation, it all requires people to give up of their time, and it's men like yourself who do make a serious difference. So keep up.
Well, we all try our best.
Absolutely. Well, come here, listen. we've come towards the end of the show. Before we do, I want to say thank you very much, Sean, for taking the time. Hope it wasn't as difficult as you thought it might.
Hang on, no, is any extra time to play or no?
Well, we have extra time, Kevin, but it's been taken up it's been taken up by the administrator. And
another question I want to ask Sean there.
Go ahead.
No, well, I've actually never asked him this before, but you find there, you've refereed big games, high-profile games at Croke Park, All-Ireland finals, and you've done the line in finals. Is there there's maybe as much pressure on you on the line because you're the man in the middle is relying on you to, if he misses something, to make a decision. Do you find yourself under as much pressure, Sean, when you're doing a line?
The line, to be fair, Kevin, I think any referee will tell you, when you're in the middle of the field, you don't hear anything. You're totally focused on the game, especially in Croke Park when there is a lot of 1,000 people in the ground. Even any game, when you're in the middle of the field, you're totally concentrating on the next decision. But when you're on the line, you have managers, you have selectors, you have water carriers, you have supporters from the first 10 rows roaring at you. You hear that. You do hear that all the time with an opinion. And it's a very difficult job. The linesman is a very difficult job in the big games. But you have to stay focused, and it's very important as a linesman that the referee is the man in charge, and the referee, more or less, he'll give out the instructions as the way you want to do it. So, you can't referee the game from the line, and that's, you might see something, but at the end of the day, he has had better view on it, and you could be wrong. I know myself, I have made mistakes on the line, thinking that I've seen something or that it looked worse from my angle and the referee's closer. So on the line, it's much more than throwing the flag one row to the other when the ball goes out. And believe it or not, as a linesman, there's a number of occasions that you actually can't take your eyes off an incident, that the ball could go out over the line and you don't even see what way it's going, because there could be two men off the ball and you're focusing on that. So it's a difficult job on the line.
It never seems to be a difficult job in Galbally home games. The line, the flag just seems to go the one road all the time.
Kevin, you'll know Ned Murphy. Ned Murphy is very good and very honest.
Fair play, and well selected, and very well selected, I'm sure as well.
Right, Damien, Sean, we quiz on before the show, and then we have another. So Damien's going to talk you through last night's quiz.
Sean, your first job, Sean, is to give me a number between 1 and 35, or 35 people who got 10 out of 10 last night's quiz. Don't see your name appearing here anywhere on it, Sean. I don't know what happened to how you got on. But maybe give me a number and we'll tell you who last night's winner was.
We'll go with 23.
Somewhere near the end. Hang on now. See now where we're at. That's the prize this week's going to Peather Daly and Thrillick.
Oh, very good. Very good. Well done, Peather. Good stuff. Sean, thank you for that. Damien, just go through the answers from last night before you go through.
I don't have the answers from last night. I'll tell you what, I'll just go through tonight's quiz because we have a wee quiz here to finish off. Sean, nothing too strenuous, don't worry about it. You have 6 out of 10 to beat. Niall Morgan was the first man up and his score still stands. So if you don't get it right, it goes across to Kevin Kelly. Kerry were the last team to win an All-Ireland apart from Dublin back in 2014. But who did they beat in the final?
Mayo.
No, Kevin.
Donegal.
Donegal's correct, Kevin. How many Ulster finals have Donegal not been involved in since 2011, Sean?
Have they not since 2011? I'll say 3.
No, Kevin.
Jeez, that's a tough one there, young Harvey.
Yeah, just something to sharpen the minds.
11, 12, 13. I'd say 2 maybe.
The answer's actually 1, right?
From Anna.
Moving across, who wore the number 1 jersey in the 2005 All-Ireland final for Tyrone, Sean?
I'm going to say John Devine, but I think it's Pascal McConnell, isn't it?
Which one are you going to say? Pascal McConnell? That's the correct answer.
Yeah.
Good man, that's one.
Good
so
lad,
far.
Sean.
Good man.
Cover all bases, Sean.
Yeah.
How many Ulster Championships has Pascal McConnell won?
Four.
Kevin?
Well, if Sean said 4 and 4's not right, then I'll go with 5.
Yeah, 5's right. Which Kyle man, Sean, was Tyrone's 5th All-Star back in 1986? Kyle man.
Damien O'Hagan.
That's correct. Good man. Damien O'Hagan managed Kyle to their last senior football championship in which year?
16. 17, is it? 17.
2000 and what, Kevin?
Is it not 2018?
It is indeed. Yeah.
18. Yeah.
4 to go, Sean. Pressure's on. You've got 2 so far. You can only equal that score.
We can do it.
Kyle have how many senior football titles? They lie second, joint second. How many titles have they got? Carrickmore 15. How many have Kyle?
Jesus Christ. Damien Harvey.
It's in double figures. Have a guess.
Try 11.
Oh, crossbar 10.
Look.
We're going to edit that one out. Kyle share that figure with which other East Tyrone club?
East Tyrone.
They have 10 senior football titles. This East Tyrone club. Not too far away from yourselves. Only in the road a bit.
I don't think it's the Clarks.
Yep, you're right. It's the Clarks. Good man. Right, Sean, moving on.
Good man, Sean. You're on a roll.
Right, Sean, this will be no problem to you. A free kick is taken and the ball strikes the referee. The referee throws in the ball where it strikes him in the same position where it strikes him, right? Is this correct?
No, it has to be retaken.
That is correct, Sean. Good man. You needed to get that one right, so you passed this year's referees exam. And
that was a 2-point question.
And the last one is: who's the only Galbally reserve player to officiate in an All Ireland final?
I think I'll have that, man. That must be myself.
Good man, Sean. You get 5 out of 10. Good man. We at least you share that figure with the great Joe McMahon, John McElhone, and Chris Rafferty.
Chris Rafferty, indeed. Well, listen, Sean, thank you very, very much for taking the time. Damien, thanks for helping us out with the quiz. Well, there we are, folks. That's our TTM Monday night show wrapped up. And as I say, our thanks, of course, to Sean and to Kevin and Damien as well for participating. Thank you. We'll be back again Thursday night. And our guest this Thursday night, Damien, have we sorted out a couple more teachers? Is that right?
We need now a couple of teachers on. It's been at least a week since we've had some. Kevin has his head in his hands there, so we definitely need some more teachers on.
Let's go and look about my red pen.
I'm hoping that next Monday night we will have, just as we change the things, change the scenery, we're hoping to have the great Nudie Hughes, Monaghan's Nudie Hughes, on with us next Monday night. Things working out if possible. But as I say, thanks again to Sean. Sean, gentleman, we hope you enjoyed it. It wasn't as bad as you thought it would be.
Well, thank you.
We'll have you back
Thanks for having us.
Not at all, not at all. Keep up the great work. Listen, folks, we'll talk to you on Thursday night.